Everyone be cool. Okay, here we go. All right, so yeah, let's do this. So the Greek wars start in 519. They go all the way to 404. That's including the Peloponnesian War. What we're talking about today is basically the first 50 years of this, and that's Greek on Persia violence, not Greek on Greek violence, which that happens a little bit later. But the Persian Wars are kind of interesting. So I'm going to talk about the Persian Wars, and then I have this really awesome, like high production value, original simulation that I'm going to show you to simulate the Battle of Thermopylae, and then we can talk about expectations for this week and next week. So bear with me. Take some notes if you'd like. Again, a lot of the stuff is going to be at least touched on or referenced in your book, but it doesn't go into as much detail. Okay, so in 519, there's something that happens. The Persian Empire to the east, so out here, past Asia Minor, past the Levant, Persia is in modern day, it's based in modern day Iran. In fact, the the language they speak in Iran is called Persian to this day. They don't speak Arabic like most of the rest of the Middle East. They speak Persian, and it's rooted in this kind of ancient culture. We talked about the Persians before a little bit. We've compared them with the Greeks, but they're an empire, and what empires do is they expand. So the Persian Empire by 519 expands all the way through Asia Minor or modern day Turkey, and it reaches the west coast of Turkey. And that there on the coast of what's called Ionia, kind of the west coast of modern Turkey, is a bunch of Greek city-states. And they're just chilling out, they're doing their thing. This is where ancient Troy was located before it was destroyed. But there's a bunch of other Greeks just chilling out in Asia Minor. But they get conquered by the Persian Empire. The Persians are like, hey, what's up? We have this huge army. You guys belong to us now. The Ionians are Greek, right? They're just as Greek as the people in Athens and Sparta and Thebes and Corinth and everybody else. They're Greek, and they do not want to be conquered. They ask their buddies across the Aegean Sea for help. They're like, hey, the Persians are here. The Persians are here. Let's all gang up and fight the Persians. Most of the city-states in the mainland of Greece, over here on the other side of the Aegean, they say no. They're like, no, sorry, dudes. Y'all on your own. We don't want to risk ticking off Persia because they're going to come at us next. And there's no way we can defeat the Persian army. They're too big. Athens, though. So it would have been cool if everybody was on the same page, but they're not. Because Athens being Athens, they're like, no, we're going to go our own way on this. We're going to Fleetwood Mac. You can go your own way. Like they're going to go their own way. They're going to do what they want. And they're like, yes, Greek independence, Greeks for Greeks, that's what we want. And so they send ships and troops and supplies across the Aegean Sea to the Ionian coastline, and they help the Ionian Greek rebels fight the evil Galactic Empire. This goes nowhere, though. Like, it's just a waste of time. Ionia is still conquered by the Persians by the end of this. And all it does is piss off the Greek king, who goes by the name Darius, right? Now, Darius probably would have been content for the time being just taking Asia Minor and the Ionian Greek city-states. But when Athens gets involved on behalf of the people he's trying to conquer, he takes this as a sign, tantamount to a declaration of war by not just Athens, but all of Greece against Persia. And so Darius is like, all right, it's on now. You know, the Athens ticked me off. This is not acceptable. You spat in my face. And now I'm going to invade. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to do what you all thought I was going to do before, and that's invade the rest of Greece. So Sparta's looking around. They're like, great. Thanks a lot, Athens. Idiots. You brought down the wrath of the Persian Empire on us. And that's exactly what happens. So there are two different invasions of Persia by, or of Greece by the Persian Empire. Okay, the first one takes place in 490 BCE. It's still King Darius. It takes Darius a couple decades really to gear up for war, because it's a big undertaking to ship tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of troops across an ocean, across a sea. You know, you need a lot of planning. You need a lot of boats. You need a lot of ships and supplies and troops and stuff. So 490 rolls around. Persia invades Greece, like the mainland of Greece. Great. He lands in Athens' backyard, basically, at the plains of Marathon. And what he's hoping to do here is hoping to land north of Athens, march down south, and take Athens by surprise. And it's a huge thing. Like, this is a huge invasion. 600 Persian ships loaded with, you know, hundreds each of raring to go Eastern warriors with their weird looking swords and their shields and leather armor, looking to just flood through Greece. Like, this is a huge undertaking in the ancient period. 600 ships is a lot. Like, it takes a lot of work and time to build one ship in the ancient period, let alone 600. This is crazy town. What happens though is, according to legend, and this is, you know, if you've heard the word marathon before, of course you have. I don't know if anyone's ever run a marathon. Has anyone run a marathon? You're like, no.
I do the fat ass 5K every year.
Okay, yeah, that's the way to go. 5K is actually like healthy. That's good. That's a good amount of space to be running. That's a sane distance, right? So the legend goes that there's an Athenian guy who is up by Marathon. He sees the Persian army landing, and he goes, holy crap, I need to warn Athens about this. So he runs the entire distance between Marathon and Athens, which is 26.2 miles. And he runs that entire way, and he goes, the Persians are here, and he falls down dead upon delivering that message. So if you've ever wondered why a marathon is 26.2 miles, like, that's kind of weird. It's the exact distance between the plains of Marathon and where the Athenian army was encamped. And so, and the moral of the story is, don't run marathons because you could die from it, right? So the fastest 5K is actually, like, that's the same distance to run. All right. Okay, so Greece is invaded with a really large enemy force that's in the process of landing north of Athens. The Athenian army is not very big, but it is well disciplined. It's well drilled, and long story short, guys, they end up winning this war. The Athenians win round one of the Persian invasions of Greece that take place over the next 50 years. And the reason why they do this is kind of cool. I mentioned the Phalanx formation. I mentioned that before. The Phalanx is basically either like a box shape formation or like a pyramid shape of soldiers lined up in tight formation, and every soldier has the same equipment. they've got a long spear, and they've got a big round shield. And the phalanx is designed so that every soldier protects his buddy to the left of him with his shield. And he's being protected by the guy next to him, by that guy's shield. And it's this like interlocked moving wall of death that just cuts through the enemy force. Like they're very disciplined. They work as a unit, because before this, military strategy was basically just whoever has more guys, just launch those guys at the enemy and hope something sticks. And if you have more guys, you're going to win. The Greeks invent the phalanx formation, which is a military formation where they're able to fight as one, as a unit, which is extremely important. So at the Battle of Marathon, the Greek army marches up north. They encounter the Persians as they're landing on the plains of this kind of beach here. The Persians are still establishing a beachhead, and they situate themselves rather foolishly between a river to the south and a river to the north. Now, the Persians thought that this would, A, provide them cover. It would be a natural barrier from advancing armies, which I guess it was. And two, it's two sources of fresh water that you can supply your army with as they're all landing on the beach. This ends up being a fatal mistake. The Athenian general divides his army into three pieces. There's a very thin center, and if you can look up here at the very top, the kind of marching ants up here, the broken up lines, that's where the Athenian army starts out in the Battle of Marathon. So you have a very thin Greek center, and then two flanks on the right and the left that are much more denser with more guys, and it's a much stronger kind of formation. The Greeks attack the Persians as they're continuing to land on the beaches of Marathon. The Greek center marches forward, and then they only get so far before they retreat. And they act like they're scared, and they're like, no, never mind, we're going back home. The Persians see this as a sign of weakness, and they launch all their guys forward to attack the Greek center. But this is actually a trap. Like, this was a clever trick devised by the Athenians, because while the Greek center is pulling back, they're drawing the Persian forces forward. And the guys on the flanks, the left and the right, push inward into what's called a double envelopment maneuver. So like a trash compactor that just like squeezes things into a tiny cube, the Athenian army is trapping the Persians on the front and their right flank and their left flank in this ever so shrinking trap of phalanx death, where the Athenians are marching forward in unison as one, as a block of soldiers who are just stabbing their way through the Persian lines. The Persians can't spread out because they're boxed in by these rivers. So they can't outflank the Athenians. They're boxed in. And the Greek center joins its buddies on the flanks, and then you get this trash compactor kind of phenomenon where thousands upon thousands of Persians are trapped in this beach area getting slaughtered by the Athenian troops. So against overwhelming odds, the Athenians are able to pull out this victory at Marathon and defeat the Persian forces. So, one of the things that the Greeks contribute to Western society, Western civilization, is military tactics, military formations, being able to fight as a unit instead of just launching a ton of guys with swords at the enemy and hoping for the best. Okay, this is one of the big lessons from the Greek wars. But it's not over. The Persians retreat. Darius is humiliated. He is burning with hatred for the Athenians and the Greeks in general, but he dies of old age before he's able to mount a comeback. Now, enter stage left, Darius's son, Xerxes. And by the way, you know, we have lots of historical evidence of this stuff happening. There are lots of, you know, detailed documents written by Herodotus, also firsthand accounts from other places. There's lots of archaeological evidence. Darius and Xerxes are mentioned in the Bible. You know, like these are pretty well-known events. Anyway, Xerxes vows revenge for his dad's defeat. And 50 years later, we get yet another invasion of Greece. This time the invasion works, like the initial stages work. Darius lands on a series of different beaches instead of just one, or Xerxes rather. He's learned his lesson from his dad anyway. And so a massive army, even larger than the first one, lands in Greece. And they're spread out and they're able to advance. However, the Greeks know their own territory better than the Persians do. And there's a crucial mountain pass that goes through kind of like the eastern mountains in Greece that opens up to the rest of the Greek mainland. And there's kind of a mountain pass there near Thermopylae. And now the Greeks know that the Persians are coming, but they're not unified really in their fight against the Persians again. But it's the Spartans that this time steal the show. One of their kings, King Leonidas, who's pictured here, played by Gerard Butler in the movie 300. I don't know if any of you have seen 300 before. It's a very good movie. Very bloody. You know, it's an action movie. It's like the prototypical like manly movie. But it tells a very good story. And his wife's a badass too. King Leonidas' wife. But anyway, it's the legend goes there's 300 Spartans and a few other guys too that are there. And they hold this crucial mountain pass at Thermopylae for several days while the rest of the Greek city-states get their act together and are able to form an army to fight the Persians. Now, this works for some time. The Spartans are able to hold this chokehold, strategic location through the mountains for several days. They all die. Spoiler alert, if you're going to watch the movie. Leonidas and all of his Spartans die, but they're able to delay things just enough for the rest of the Greek army to assemble. However, this time Athens does get burned to the ground. Before the Persians are defeated, Athens gets obliterated, gets turned into a parking lot by the Persian forces. The Persians finally get their revenge on Athens. However, the rest of the Greek city-states bind together, and it's actually a naval battle this time that saves their bacon. At the Battle of Salamis, there's this massive Persian navy that's kind of situated in sort of narrow straits, and the smaller, faster Greek ships are able to kind of maneuver in between the much larger Persian ships and set them all on fire one by one. And so without any boats and ships, the Persians have to retreat because they can't bring any more supplies and fresh food and water and reinforcements to their army. And so they have to pull back. And thus ends the second invasion of Persia. Now, so what I wanted to do was find like a YouTube clip or something of the Battle of Thermopylae to show you guys, because I said I was going to do that. I can't really find anything on YouTube that's in English. And so what I did, hang on, this is cool. Actually, it's not cool. It's really lame. But hang on. I'm gonna screen share this. What I did, there's a computer game. There's a computer game called Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. I don't know if anyone has heard of it before. My son plays it. He's been really into it lately. And sorry, I'm trying to get it so you guys can see it. There we go. There's a computer game called Totally Accurate Battle Simulator that my 8-year-old has been really, really into. I don't know how to work it very well. I'm a Luddite and I'm a dad and I'm old. But what I tried to do was simulate the Battle of Thermopylae as best I could, where you've got your 300 Spartans here on the left side of this kind of chokehold, this like, you know, bottleneck part of the battlefield against a much larger Persian force. And I ran the simulation and I recorded it. And so I wanted to show this to you. Can you guys see this okay? Okay, all right, let's play the simulation, see how it plays out. So there's the Spartans on the left in their phalanx formation, shields and spears. They're working as a unit. They're cutting through the Persian melee forces. Holy crap. Oh boy, yeah, things are looking pretty bad for Persia. Now their ranged forces are getting engaged. Yeah, it's, okay, that's it. There we go. I told you this was really high production value, like really high budget. You know, I spent a lot of money producing, no, I'm kidding. But you know, this hopefully gives you like a sense, like imagine this happening wave after wave after wave at the Battle of Thermopylae. And that's basically what happened, right? The strategic location, these troops working as a unit, cutting through the much larger Persian forces. And they're able to delay things until the Greeks are able to get their act together and join together. That basically summarizes the Greek wars, at least the Persian stage of it. Now, in your textbook, there's another war that's going to be discussed, which is the Peloponnesian War. And I'm going to leave that up to you to read if you haven't read it already. That's basically all I have for you guys today. Yeah, there's no audio. Yeah, Ben's right. There's no audio for the battle, but you don't really need it. Are there any questions about any of this at all? Any of the Greek stuff so far? Okay. All right, great. So what I have for you guys is, your analysis paper 2 is up and it is ready for you to be working on it at any time this week. You're going to be using the documents from last week and this week to answer the questions. I was really impressed by what you guys produced for analysis paper 1, which by the way, these are all graded and you can see them on your Blackboard grade sheet. You can read my feedback, definitely read my feedback to see, you know, if there's any course correction you need to do. I uploaded a sample paper from one of your colleagues who wrote just an excellent A+ paper. You can look at that sample paper and get a good sense of like how to structure an essay, how to use evidence from the perspectives book, and how to cite. And that should be your template from now on. And so just do that for this week. That's all you have to do for this week. We'll meet on Friday. We'll discuss the documents. If you have any lingering questions, I'll be there for that. Also, one more thing. For week 5, all we're doing is the exam. We have our first exam next week. But we're not doing any more document reading for that. Okay. You've got a few pages of textbook reading, but that's it. That's all you have to work on. There's no quiz, there's no paper next week. There's just the first exam, and you have all week to work on it. It will be up for you to take by the end of this weekend, so you have the entire week. For now, however, if you want, you can look at the study guide. I put a study guide up in the week 5 folder, and you can kind of get a sense of what to expect for the exam. So, you know, but do that, like first things first, just take care of the analysis paper. And then when you have time, you can look at the study guide. It's not going to ask a whole lot of you. It's 10 questions, multiple choice, and then 2 short essays, like really short essays. Like I'm looking for like a paragraph or 2 per essay. It's not heavy lifting. And that's your exam for next week. Any questions whatsoever? Yes. All right. Okay, well, that's all I have for you guys. I hope you have a good rest of your week. I'll see you back here on Friday. We'll talk about the documents, and if you have any questions about the paper or the exam, you can ask me then. In the meantime, Thanks for being here. Thanks for witnessing my beautiful handiwork when it comes to computer simulations. And I'm going to quit my job and be a Hollywood producer after this because I know I'm really good at it. All right. Have a good one, guys. See ya.
I just have a personal question.